really had such a nice day with a lot of great conversation, and really appreciate everybody's work. And I know that most of you traveled from different countries here to come over. Really appreciate that as well. We have a hot stop at 5 p.m. And but I think we can take like a few questions, like anybody want to bring up any topics, or you guys are already tired, need more coffee. So we have a few more minutes, like we can take another 5 to 10 minutes, and anybody has any questions, want to bring it up, or any topic, any open topics you want to bring it up.
Do we have to do a release 3 in the end of June, or is it a hard thing? Or because I think it's an important thing that we have to discuss or agree upon, or not agree upon, or,
yeah, see, I think
decide upon. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think that is a great question. I think this came up in the TSC call and in another session as well. I think I will share my thought as a TSC chair. See, there is a lot of expectation outside of us from analysts and media that we keep giving up releases every 6 months, because we as a community, we went and communicated through the TSC approvals and stuff that we would have releases every 6 months. Okay. I think my opinion would be that we should keep the June release. Like if we skip like a couple of weeks, that's fine. Like, if we slip into like end of June to like, let's say early July, that's fine. But I think as a community, I think it's very important for us to sort of like stick with the 6 months cadence. But community can decide what goes inside that cadence. And we don't want to like a zero in it. Of course, like we can always have like more stuff into it, but at least that's my thought into it. But I think we can discuss as a community to figure out like what we want to do. But I think we should not, but we should agree on one approach and stick to that approach for every release. The thing that what I'm concerned about is that we don't want to come up with a new process every release, then it's going to confuse everybody. So let's agree on one approach for this release. And I would like that approach to be followed, like as a principle for all the releases, so that we don't need to keep discussing this topic again and again. Do we?
Probably what we should then also try to do, maybe your list you should put up to see which one is the highest priority thing that we should cover in that release. Because okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what you said, Ken. I think it's important that we get into the habit of making releases regularly and often. Release early, release often, get good at it, and then just make sure the machine flows smoothly. I think would be good.
Sure, thank you.
I'm coming.
Oh, yeah, thank you. In case you want to run.
Okay, so I think in that case, the thing that we discussed in SIG1 at some point is the ability to call out, 2 releases a year, but one of them being the major release and another one being more of a maintenance release. And the way we would like to frame this is, so the major release is where we're going to introduce new big features, right, or big changes, whereas the maintenance release is incremental improvement without necessarily the big bang factor that introduce XYZ new releases. So it can be dock improvement, it can be stability, it can be bug fixes, and it could be also new features, but doesn't have to. And that way, from a delivery standpoint on the community, it offloads a little bit the pressure that there is an expectation that every 6 months there is something new that is bringing tremendous value. But at the same time, we keep that cadence of every 6 months, we bring something new that is of value to the community and the consumers of Nephio. So that's another kind of approach where we, I believe, meet in the middle. That's a suggestion.
Okay, so it's a good suggestion. I think we should discuss further on that to see how we can conclude.
Okay, how about a fifth approach? So I think what you suggest is kind of it's called tick-tock sometimes. You have a tick, and then you have the talk that's like the more... and various releases do it. There's like even releases that are like beta, and then the full release. Various ways to think about it. But my sense from having the 2 releases so far that have been somewhat painful to cut them out. I know this release will be easier because our processes are more efficient. But we've always had this kind of crunch. We move from a lot of planning and then towards a furious coding, which is a crunch. And I want to protect my people from that crunch this time. I'm in favor of what Kieran said. Release often, don't make a big deal out of it. We release what we have. So sometimes the release notes will be impressive. Here, we landed this big feature. Sometimes they'll be more like, oh, we fixed these bugs. It's not a big deal. Sometimes the press release will be impressive. Sometimes it will be less impressive. But we just release what we have. We don't make a big deal out of it. We don't make a big plan over this is what's going to be there, whatnot. Because at the end of the day, this is a volunteer-based project. People work on sometimes what they're passionate and interested in. So we can make our own priorities, but if we don't have the people actually wanting to do that, then that's not going to happen. So I'm exaggerating a little bit. We obviously can do some sort of planning there and try to encourage certain things. But at the end of the day, we release what we have. That's
Okay.
not so bad, is it?
That's
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's okay. But if we are doing R3 at the end of June or July, just like the way we are talking, I would say, Kandan, please level set the expectations with whoever you need to level set. I know you deal
see,
with
I think
press,
it is between us,
Yeah.
Bala, from a TSC perspective. See, I think the governing body is the TSC. And
Okay.
you are all part of the TSC, and what decision is getting made in the TSC is based on the feedback the SIG provides. Okay, so right now the process is that SIG2 and other SIGs comes and says that like, okay, these are the 4 things that we're going to deliver. I'm just using some example.
Yeah.
And the 6 months cadence has already been approved, and that's what like currently we're following. And we say that like if this is a date that we're expecting this release to need to go out, I think TSC everybody is okay with it. We're absolutely okay. But if we're going to change the process of currently it's 6 months cadence, like we are okay to slip like one like couple of weeks here and there. But if it is like a 2 months push out, okay, then the TSC need to approve, stating that they're all okay with it. Okay, see, I think we should figure this out from an inclusive perspective. But I think majority what I'm hearing is that I think we should go on 6 months cadence. But what goes in the 6 months is something that we should decide as a community.
Yeah, that's
And I
fine.
think
When I mean to say level set, sorry, I should have clarified a bit. I know you deal with press, you deal with analysts. If at all somebody is asking about the release, I think obviously content is not going to be huge for this R3. But at the same time, I would like to say that we are very well set for the subsequent releases because SIG1 has done a tremendous job for us and put a lot of backlog. I think we have a good direction, good roadmap, but that has taken a little bit, just like they say, you need to slow down a bit in order to take up the speed. So for the R3 release, if you are going in the end of June or mid of July, if at all you have to level set in the such that it mostly like making the platform a little bit more robust. It's going to be that kind of a release. The R4 is going to be more feature rich.
Yeah, see, I think that is a good point, but we don't need to be excused about what we are delivering. This is a community work and everybody is proud of what we are doing. And I think the media or analysts or even the users, okay, in my opinion, more important is the user opinion and the people adopting this particular product and taking up into the next level as a product as well. So I think my point of view is that I think we as a community, we declare what need to be done. And then we figure out like how do we communicate back along with the Linux Foundation to the media and analysts. Okay, I don't see that would be a problem. And but we need to be consistent on the messaging, because the problem what I see is like we go tell one story in one release, then next release we change the story, then the outside people would see that this community is not maturing in the process and the way we communicate. So as long as we stick to a one message and that one message goes out for pretty much all the releases, then we should be proud of what we are doing.
I think I like that idea, what you mentioned, and you driving towards that goal but then how do you communicate that in advance, which is your backlog? How do you set aside, next 6 months, 12 months goals, the features you're going to deliver, technical debt that you're going to retire, right? Stability bug fixes, as well as the new feature addition needs to be laid out. And then you deliver what the community can do, right? Otherwise, you'll be technical debt for the next release.
Sure. Makes sense. Yeah. I think we are all reflecting the same thought process. So I think what I would do is like a next TSC call, I think majority of the TSC members are here, but not all. So what I would do is like I will put a couple of slides with the same thoughts, whatever we discussed. Like I will bring it up to the TSC, make sure that everybody is on common page.
Okay. I'm going to kind of talk for the union now. So don't go into July. Okay. So if you're going in Q2, the release date needs to be the end of June, which means we need to finish development probably the second week of June, because you just can't. July just doesn't work, and if it slips past July, then also stick to the dates. The spillovers are absolute killer because it impacts. The reason R3 is slipping is because we slipped to R2, so we have to stop doing that. So, stick to the dates. Whatever is, as Charles said, whatever is there goes out. And if it's not impressive, maybe it's just not impressive one release, because the like the 60-hour weeks and stuff that you have, just we can't be doing that. And July in Europe, we actually do take long holidays. So,
I'll just say one quick thing: +1 to all of that, because we don't want to drive Jill crazy.
I might go live in France again to have that long summer vacation. I miss it. No, I think we're getting into an agreement here. To your point, Liam, that we need to have a fixed cadence, and it needs to be fixed and defined. And whatever gets out of the door at that time is what gets out of the door, and we manage the expectation a bit up front, and we live with it.
I want to make just a very tiny suggestion that might help us, because we're worried about if the release notes won't be impressive enough. Nobody said the release notes only have to be about what you just did. We can include coming up, right? So here's a summary of the last season of Nephio. Coming up in the next season of Nephio, we can give a kind of preview of what we're planning. So that way, whoever is really focused only on the release notes can get a tiny little sense of a roadmap. Yep, kind of a preview. Yep.
Good best practice.
There you go.
Go to one. Yeah.
I
Okay,
mean,
we have
it's a commitment. It's just like,
five more minutes. Sorry, we have 10 more minutes or 5 more minutes? Okay, 10. Okay, let's go for it. Yeah.
A different conversation. I think we discussed a little bit service assurance and observability this morning, right? Is this in scope of Nephio or not? Because we do have work items at the moment that are focused on it. And I heard a sense in the room this morning, or whether or not this should be a topic that Nephio should focus on or not.
See, I think my point of view, I'll share my point of view, and yeah.
One thing is sure, what is beyond doubt is we should make the platform observable.
That's a different thing.
Yes,
That's a different story. Yes. Yeah, no, that should be the priority. There is no doubt in that, because if something, if you deploy something today, users have no idea what's going on.
I agree with that, but today that's not the work item that we have in scope, right? So I think I wanted to discuss whether and I don't care whether it's in or not in, but I just wanted to discuss because I heard a sense that people were doubting that we should do that. So I see two perspectives. So one is we just document to say how we work in a service assurance framework, and that's it. Versus what we are trying to do right now is develop it. So there's people working on getting observability out of the systems and stuff like that, which potentially is not what Nephio is
I think
about
that is I think we have to play this like a very carefully, because we don't want like a lot of scope creep, and then we are not able to deliver as a like end-to-end product from the working principle perspective.
Yeah, my comment to this is I heard the feedback this morning, and for me, the only thing that it means is it's lower priority. That's it. I don't want to say we're dropping it. Yeah, but I think.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
Who had Karen?
But I think the automation having a plug-in to different observability tools and stuff to feed information and collect statistics of what is being deployed as an intent, I think that is useful. But developing entirely observability tool is like probably not a scope of our community. Yeah, of course, yeah. And other thing is, like, if somebody in the community strongly feels that they can bring people and contribute towards something, like let's bring to the TSC and have a discussion.
So I think the expectation here is clarity on what Nephio will do for operator, right? So if you can clarify the scope through your release features, this is what we do. Now, there will be a lot of things that have not been addressed, right? And the Nephio will probably never address. Those things should be clarified. Say, hey, I'll let you deploy, but you can pick up the data from XYZ APIs, do your own telemetry, do your own observation. Same thing we're talking about. We must do security or identity management for Nephio itself. Now you can either have a feature that does for workloads, like NF deployments and NF workloads, or you could say use your own, right? But those kind of things needs to be clarified in what it does. To me, those are the feature sets. We offer ABC services, REST, here are the APIs, or, pick your choice.
Yeah, good points.
Yeah. So I'll point out that, everything always has layers to it. So there are two kinds of observability that we think about. There's the collecting the data and KPI for things like service assurance, but there's also just basic status. So Google Seed Code included something called a status aggregator that we ended up never incorporating properly in Nephio because you need that, right? We signed the Silva demo, this cool thing where you see everything going green slowly deployed. We actually have nothing like that in Nephio right now, right? Because it's so indirect with config sync. And yeah, we don't know, okay, this package is done and ready to deploy, but you don't actually know if it was actually deployed successfully and running. We kind of say those are other systems, but we need some sort of that basic closing of the loop. And that's something that we need to develop for ourselves. That has nothing to do with Prometheus or any other systems that are out there. So I think there's some subtlety to this and some depth that we need to get into. We don't have very clear answers yet, I think.
Hang on, I'll argue that some technology that do reconciliation provide that status out of the box, right? So it's not necessarily, maybe config sync doesn't do it. Argo CD does it and can be tweaked to do it. I don't know Flux well enough, but my point is there are maybe tools in the ecosystem that can allow us to get that without implementing it ourselves.
The reason why I brought up the discussion is that we at least agree amongst ourselves what the scope is of the observability that we target, because what you are now saying, that's not what we are focused on at the moment. You see, so, and that's why I brought up the discussion is let's, amongst the Nephio community, say, okay, what do we want to do from that perspective? And let's focus on that, and all the rest is out of scope. That was the reason why I brought it up, because I sensed in the room that what we were doing in this morning was not really, potentially a little bit too big for what we can cope with at this stage. And maybe at this stage we shouldn't address that, but we should refocus some of this effort to things that matter short term versus long term.
Yeah, I think just on your point, I think we did some work in Flux around putting in CD events type of things. And I think there are like groups out there looking at kind of standardizing some of the types of operational events and things that we might want to tie into as well.
All right, but I need to close up that topic. So what I'm going to suggest is, everybody, there is a call on Friday, 11. No, not tomorrow. I'm flying, so I can't host the call. But next Friday, I'm hosting the call, and it's the scope call. So and I'm happy to put on the agenda service assurance. And so let's have the discussion on what it means and what we want to do with it. Thank you. I think but that's exactly the kind of debate discussion we need. So thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. I think this is a great conversation. So thanks for everybody. Anybody last minute question?
Yeah, I got 2 minutes left.
So it did a lot of visibility collection measurements and stuff. We also had logging, but the community was at like, do we need to go into what applications you're going to deploy? Why do I have to do it, right? At some point, you should clearly state, we don't do it, right? Let Verizon, DT, they take care of it. Or you say, we have a plan for it, right? This is one of those things when we hear our expectations that if you got this magic application Nephio coming in, it will solve all my pains and my problems. It won't, right? So I want to be clear what you plan to do with it. I think it's okay to combined capabilities. But if you can't, don't sacrifice the delay on other capabilities. Give it to us and inform us so we can make arrangements for missing capabilities. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. It's great comment. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Have a fun, and who are traveling back, have a safe travel. I think some of you are staying for tomorrow, and there are a lot of unofficial Nephio sessions. Like if you want to be part of it, again, thank you.